Right, action! We're in it, Larry. We're back at the Budget Home studio and I've got Larry here with me, Bryan of course, and we're going to have a bit of a catch up because Larry and I haven't been on YouTube for a while, but Larry is a man that's had a lot of experience with life and he's got stories to tell. So Larry, I was just watching one of the independent news channels on YouTube, and this chap was saying that the stores that are closing in the US at the moment, retailers, major Sears, the big Walmart, hundreds of stores closing, people losing their jobs, and he's saying despite what's happening on Wall Street, the reality is the US is actually in a depression. What do you think about all that?
Well, actually, I think that the news media manufactures public opinion, Brian.
Indeed.
And what you've got is, with Wall Street and the United States government, whether it be Bush or Obama, has given money to the banks, and that hasn't been a real good distribution centre for the money given to the people. It's like New Zealand.
Socializing the losses.
Yeah, and what happens is that the average person hasn't got money. I mean, today we're talking about a living wage, which is $18.40 according to the Anglican Family Centre in Lower Hutt. But even with that, it would not be enough to get by, because if your wage is $13.50 or $14, you have to have a WINS top up, otherwise you can't live. The cost of living, as we all know, is rising every week.
Yeah.
The cost of utilities is rising, so there's got to be more distribution of the wealth.
It's an
from the central government.
It must be.
And we have problems with the Wellington City Council.
Yes.
You see, you're getting. It's not a good example where the councillors are getting extras from the mayor, which seems like, if you agree with me, I'll give you so many extra thousand for a job. Yeah. And it's the same with the CEOs. Their wages are enormous, even the mayor's is. And that needs to come down a bit.
Yeah. 420,000, Larry.
Well, it's too much.
Just let me in for a moment, otherwise it'll sound like you're just doing a monologue, and you don't, of course. But that 420,000, I said at the time when recently we have actually re-advertised the job for the chief executive guys down here at Wellington City, and a small local authority compared to some of the bigger ones throughout the world. But we were paying our chief executive 420,000, and I said to the performance review subcommittee and to the mayor, I hope you use this as an opportunity to bring the wage down of the chief executive, a new one. And of course, you know, no one took that very seriously at all. However, when you think of people being asked to live on $18 an hour, and a chief executive earning $200 to $300 an hour, it's ridiculous.
It is, yes, out of proportion.
I mean, you know, and of course there are worse examples. I mean, in the US, with the banks and the bonuses and so forth, while the bank was going bust, the poor old taxpayer, the citizen, was carrying the cost of the bank going broke, and the managers were getting bonuses in the millions. So, I mean, this is just really totally unacceptable, and yet it carries on. So, you know, what do you do about it?
Well, what we do is that we've got to have some sort of policy on incomes, and it's got to be across the board. I mean, locally we use the Wellington City Council as a sounding board, and it's not a very good one. No. Its present structure is not very good. And that reflects on the country as a whole, Brian. Like parliamentary salaries. For example, like, why does the Maori party keep in with the National Party, is that their members are getting about $250,000 a year for ministerial. And these people have never earned that money, and they say, well, this is our opportunity to get it. And I mean, this idea that you're serving the people, but you're getting these huge salaries, is ridiculous, really.
Not a democracy, a plutocracy.
Your idea on the unemployment level and what they're getting, I like to hear that.
Yes, well, it isn't actually my idea, Larry. It's it's an idea whose time has come. Now, whether it will get traction is another issue, but I actually think, and I agree with Gareth Morgan, that it's time to put everyone on a guaranteed living wage. Okay? So whether you're working, you're not working, you're waiting to get into work, or you're training or retraining for work, you're going to get that income. And, you know, I think it should be in that vicinity of 30 to 35,000 a year.
Yeah.
But to do that would mean we'd have to change for taxation. And Gareth Morgan talks about capital gains tax. Of course, that's anathema to a lot of people, and particularly those people who have hoovered up all of the extra properties. You know, the baby boomers, they got a home and then they decided they needed more, and so they bought a second and a third one. And of course they did that with the idea of selling that home later on, making a massive capital gain. Well, what's going to happen is that they'll all put their houses on the market at the same time. And it's not going to work. But what is needed is a taxation of capital gains, and I'm sure we could actually afford to have everybody on a guaranteed living wage. And none of this nonsense about $18 an hour. You know?
Yeah, I agree with that, Brian.
Larry, enough for you to go to a private practitioner and have your medical needs sorted out if need be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we want to get rid of the state system, but I actually think what we need to do is get rid of all those benefits and just replace it with one guaranteed living wage from the age of school leaving, might be 17, to the end of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't have a retirement benefit, we just have a guaranteed living wage for everyone. And you know, that includes, you know, just everyone. And there are some people, you know, who possibly don't need to work or don't want to work. Well, that's okay. Let it be. Let them not work. Let them have the guaranteed wage. We'll get it back in the tax.
Yeah.
This includes the family home. You know, you're going to have to tax the family. The idea, anyway, Larry, I've got to be honest with you, people are finding out, and in the USA, guys, that property is not such a good investment.
Well, that's true, because the property market can collapse, like any market. We know, Brian...
We're in a bubble here.
We know that the speculators have taken the money out of the property and put it into supermarket products. It's sort of sky high. We know that even when we buy vegetables from the supermarket, they're making huge profits because they're standing over the producers. We know all these things that are wrong, and all this in our economy has got to be sorted out.
Well, what we do know is that we have a long history of socialising the losses and privatising the profits. And what we never do is socialise the profits. We only socialise the losses. And you know that happens all around the world, in America, and in the UK, and in Europe. Isn't it strange? You'll accept the losses, guys, but you don't want to have the profits? That's really strange, isn't it? And,
very strange.
Yeah, and that, you know, you guys in the US have bogey a man about socialism. But look, I tell you what, you're doing socialism over there all the time with the socialising of the bank's losses. You're carrying, the community is carrying the debt of a few privileged, wealthy, you know, fat cats. And really, you know, there's no reason. It is a democracy, and that's what they say it is. And in a democracy, majority rule, minority protection, and sharing the benefits, eh, Larry? So if we're going to socialise the losses, guys, you call for the socialising of the profits also, because you're carrying it at one end. How about on a bit of a win from now on? Why is it you're lying down and taking it? We do it here too, don't worry. We behave in a very strange manner down here in New Zealand. And I think it's a bit like that in Australia also.
I think it's the same all around the world. because they've got this culture on of exploitation, and they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
They don't want to increase the wage, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. And every 10 years it gets worse. There's cuts to this, cuts to that, and all the time. And soon people who are paying rates, the rate level would be, with the borrowing of the Wellington City Council, the same as paying a rate. Is that right, Brian?
Absolutely.
If it went on.
Well, it is. And actually what's happened now, because we've borrowed so much, Wellington City Council, with about 60,000 ratepayers, is paying $21 million in interest alone on its borrowings. 21 million, guys. Tiny little tin pot outfit. Smallest little city in the world. And there you are. That's what we've got ourselves into. So this debt issue is growing. It's a big one. And that's another thing. Get on to YouTube and look at all the little films that have been made about compounding interest and the whole problem of debt in particular. I mean, the thing is that it just sucks the life force out of individuals and communities. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up and we will put it up on YouTube. So we'll see you again next time. And there, Larry, you want to say?
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for watching.